Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for your patience, and thank you for being here tonight to interview for the vacancy on our council. And I really just want to express our gratitude on behalf of the council for just being willing to step up in a really tumultuous time to serve your community in this capacity. It's admirable, and we appreciate it. Before we get started, council members, I do just want to make a note that the candidates are not sitting in the order as they are on our list, so make sure you shuffle your papers around. No, that's okay. It's not a big deal. I do just want to take an opportunity to have you introduce yourselves before we jump right into the questions. There is a clock to my right indicating that you have 2 minutes of time for your intro and also for the questions that will follow after your introduction. We also will alternate who answers the question first so that you each have an opportunity to answer each question the first time around. You do have the questions in front of you, so please use that as your reference if you need a little bit more of just a check-in with the question. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started, and we will explain more about the evening when we wrap up with this segment of the interview process. So with that, why don't we go ahead and get started with Jennifer? Please introduce yourself. Yes, please use the mic, push the button there, and there's a red light that indicates that your mic is on, and please turn it off when before the next person speaks. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jennifer Riedmeyer, and I applied for this position because of my position within the community. I have worked at Washington State for 7 years, so I'm very familiar with Washington State government. But in addition to that, I'm also a local business owner. I've been a business owner for 6 years. I have a service-based business, and so one of the things that is very eye-opening to me is the impact of our small businesses within the community, not only just brick and mortar, but those who are providing services like landscaping, for example. That is my business. And so thinking, how do we continue to grow given the upcoming changes that are faced with the upcoming budget? Olympia is a state employee community. And so with the proposed cost cuts at the state level, how does that impact, how's those trickles down into the community, and how do we serve individuals? So that is my reasoning why I'm really interested in participating. I've also been a member of the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. I've sat on that position, on that committee since 2019. And so I've really learned a lot about the city government, updating the transportation master plan, reviewing those documents. So those are the reasons why I feel compelled to get more active within my community. That's all I have.
Good evening. So I'm Kelly Green. By way of introduction, I have lived in this area for about 20 years, moved here with no job, no plan, no real strategy, just moved here on the recommendation of a friend who wouldn't stop talking about Olympia. And in that 20 years, my husband and I have been able to move from renting to owning a home, been able to move from working multiple hourly jobs into more stable careers, adopted some pets, have become parents to a couple of kids, and we've really been able to thrive here. We live up in the Northeast neighborhood, and our kids attend the public schools, which I just love that we have fantastic public schools. Professionally, I've worked at SPSCC for about 12 years at South Puget Sound Community College. I've had the opportunity to move up within that organization, and for most of my time there, I've been able to be part of our executive leadership team, which has given me the opportunity to build some skills that I know will be pertinent to this council. I've worked extensively with complex budgets that involve state funding, federal funding, union contracts, all of the things, even though they've been on a smaller scale than the city. Higher education is a very highly regulated industry like cities are, so I've been comfortable working in that realm. I've been able to build skills as a strong communicator, particularly around trying to communicate very complex issues to a very wide range of audiences. But most importantly, I've been able to spend my days at that job really focused on our local workforce, working with local students. Our students live and work in this community. They have responsibilities in this community. And so a lot of my work has been really focused on how do we build prosperity here in Olympia. I want to serve with you on this council because of these opportunities I've had here, and I want to make sure that future generations are able to live and thrive here and really create a life the way I have been able to.
All right, thank you. Good evening. My name is Isaac Wagnitz. I am also a longtime Olympia resident. I've lived in our city for over 20 years, including as a renter and now, thankfully, as a homeowner. And I've studied here and worked here for my entire adult life. This is a wonderful community. There's so many things to recommend it as a place to live, the quality of our public services, the natural surroundings, the kind of small business diversity that we have around here. And so I'm really interested in working with all of you to help make sure that this is a place where all of us can continue to live and work in prosperity. So I would really be looking forward to continuing the work that the council has already done on housing security and renter protections, and hopefully forging ahead with more labor and worker protections so that this can remain a vibrant economy for everyone in the years and decades ahead. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. I do just want to also remind you with the clock, please make sure that you feel free to finish your sentence if you hear the buzz of the timer. You all are doing great so far, but if you haven't had the opportunity this evening yet to take a deep breath, I suspect you have, just approach this as a conversation between community members. I know there's the formality of the shuffling of the papers and the questions and everything, but this really is just a conversation. So please think of it that way. And we'll begin with our first question with Councilmember Cooper.
Okay, I think this goes to Kelly. The city's success in creating permanent supportive housing and emergency homeless services has relied upon state and federal funds. These funds are not guaranteed for the coming years. How should we continue to serve and provide housing for the most vulnerable?
I'm glad you started with a real easy question.
Mhm.
No, thank you for that question. I think the fact that the city has partnered so much with state and federal partners is absolutely the way we've needed to approach this issue. It's a national issue, it's a regional issue, it's a state issue. And I think the city has, out of compassion, and Olympia is an incredibly compassionate city, which is amazing. But I think we've taken on an outsized fiscal responsibility for an issue that is not only local to this city. So for me, I think we have to continue to find ways to partner with state and federal partners, whether that's continuing to advocate, which I know there are aspects of housing on the upcoming legislative agenda for the city, which I think is perfect. I know the city supported has supported a number of things in the Rights of Way initiative, which have made really big impacts here in the city. So I think continuing to work with multi-jurisdictional partners is really the only way that that the city can continue to care for the folks who are here who are unhoused.
Isaac, yes.
I mean, that's a very difficult and a very important question because, I mean, as a city, we have a much less powerful ability to raise revenue than do, state or federal entities. I'm going to have to agree with Kelly. I think we do need to continue partnering with the state and federal entities to the degree that we can. It's an emotional issue, right? I mean, this is something that impacts so many people so deeply around here. And I think we're going to have to get creative. I'm not going to pretend that I know necessarily what all the answers to that are ahead of time, but I think we need to be willing to look at new solutions that we haven't necessarily explored before. At the same time, I think we also need to be mindful of the fact that in Washington State especially, I mean, a lot of the ability to generate revenue relies on regressive taxes, right? Like property and sales taxes are the most harmful on people who are least able to pay them. And the way our government is set up, a lot of that can't change probably without something at the state level. And so I think a lot of our strategy around this is probably going to have to be trying to influence the state government in some way to be able to have a little more leeway with those kinds of policies.
So housing and homelessness is like everybody said, it is an issue at the national scale, it's an issue at the state scale, and it is impacting here in Olympia. And I do agree, we do need to continue to monopolize any state or local funding that we can secure. But I do think that this is the time we need to be thinking outside the box. We need to understand that our systems thinking is no longer working, and we need to figure out how can we actually do small steps to help streamline individuals to get off the street into temporary housing and into other places. I just read the article on the Olympian about the Sandy Flats, and just talking about the success story of that, the individual that was highlighted, just how they lost housing because of a potential incarceration that was very short-lived, and just that barrier that's creating. And I think if we think about things in a system and we think, how can we address those gaps as we move forward with local policies, this is an opportunity for us to provide pilot programs. You're really working on, streamlining and doing ADUs. How do we get individuals that might have larger properties to get ADUs in there to help individuals that, just need that one step? And so I think that is a think outside the box approach as we're facing climate change, as we're facing other natural disasters. We're going to have more people that are not going to have homes. So it's not going to be business as usual. So how do we change that? And I think it just starts with moving beyond our planning, our vision, and really taking and thinking that outside the box. And Olympia has that. That's the great thing about Olympia is we have the ability to think outside the box and to create these different processes. So that's my response.
Okay, and your next question will come from Mayor Pro Tem Nguyen.
All right, so this next one is a budget question. And the question is, the city is going through a challenging budget process while continuing the work of providing the programs and services that the community prioritizes while closing a significant budget gap. Describe how you would approach the budget challenge with consideration to revenues and/or reductions while balancing public expectations. And that question goes to you, Isaac.
Oh, dang. Well, no, I'm sorry. No, I think that, this goes to a lot of the same issues that were discussed previously about housing. I mean, our ability to gain new revenue is currently pretty constrained. And so that is going to require a lot of creative thinking. And I think, however, if we are going to do ourselves any favors, we have to be sure that we're not burdening the people that we're trying to help with the ways that we do that. We're also dealing with the fact that people have rightly, I think, gotten used to a very high standard of public services around here. And I don't think, any major degradation in that is going to go over well politically. And so we do have to be mindful of trying to maintain that level of service without, losing employees, without having to make a lot of drastic budget cuts in really vital areas. Again, though, yeah, I mean, how we raise revenue is I think largely subject to laws that are sometimes outside of our own remit. And so to the power that a local government has of trying to influence higher bodies to enable us to be able to raise more revenue without, harming people who are already marginalized, I think is going to be very important. Again, it's hard to tell the future, like what this might look like, but I am always open to thinking, as the phrase is going to come up a lot tonight, isn't it? Thinking outside the box. And I am a person who's willing to do that. And so I would look forward to sharing ideas, to working with people, to finding solutions to that.
It's me. Okay. So budgeting is something I'm extremely passionate about. I know it sounds boring, but as a small business owner, it is huge. Understanding your source of revenue, where your costs and how you're going to have your income is the foundation. And your operating budget is very similar. And so, you've already done the budget exercise of thinking like, what costs can you cut in the short term while providing public service or not cutting public service. I think it's continuing to lean into those ideas of, how can we continue to provide XYZ, but it might not be immediate. So that's where you're really planning, you're forecasting, you're really thinking out instead of something happening maybe in a 5-year time frame, maybe it's going to happen in 10 years. So you're still thinking, it's not becoming a lost cause, but you're identifying and prioritizing where your money goes, which is really, really important. Oftentimes, again, it was highlighted that, our sales tax, that's a big source of revenue. But the sales tax is also a big pinch point for individuals. When I submit a bill to a client and they see that sales tax, sometimes there is that cringe mark. So thinking about how are we spending our money? How can we be fiscal, but also mindful with not losing our services? That's all.
I think you all in the budget that you adopted and worked with City Manager Bernie on, I think took a really big step towards demonstrating some of the challenges that are going to have to come with finding a way to close the budget deficit. I think moving towards priority-based budgeting, being really clear about what the city's priorities are, what the council's priorities are, and budgeting to that is really the only way that you can continue to approach this. The city has done a number of public surveys recently listening to community folks about what's important to them. We have that information, so it's just a matter of lining up. Does the budget line up with where folks are feeling good, where folks are feeling like they're struggling? And then, of course, in consideration of all of the city's obligations, critical services. This is an area where I think my experience would be very helpful. We went through something very similar at the community college. Post-COVID, we had some federal money that we were losing. We had to face the full effect of a few years of an enrollment decline, and things were more expensive. And so we had to approach that, and priority-based budgeting is exactly how we did that. We said, here are our values. This is what we're going to make decisions towards. We're not going to do a 10% across the board. We're not going to do a first in, first out. We've acknowledged what is important to us, and that's how we're going to make decisions. So it's never an area where you're going to make a lot of people happy, and you're actually going to make probably a lot of people unhappy. But looking at the forecast for the coming years that was published in this most recent budget, there's not a lot of other choices than to make some hard decisions.
Thank you. So I have your next question, and we are beginning with Jennifer. And it's on public safety. Even as the city has reimagined public safety and focused on resources on de-escalating crisis situations, people in crisis in public spaces continue to challenge the needs of others in the community. How would you balance compassion for a person in crisis with the safety needs of the broader community?
This question goes back to thinking about the steps that Olympia has taken has been great, is huge. This weekend, I was driving through downtown. I saw an individual handing out hand warmers, handing out hats. It is working. They are working and connecting with individuals. However, we do have situations where we might have individuals that are having a crisis, and it is in a public space, and that does make individuals feel uncomfortable. And I think that this is where it's a step to be like, it is uncomfortable, it is unfortunate, but we also have to think about it as a community. Yes, we do want people to feel safe when they go downtown, when they're walking, they're in these community spaces. Businesses are still being patronized, but we also have individuals that do need that assistance. And that's where it's public safety, it's also public health. It is a nexus, and we need to continue to build those and bridge those gaps, work with the county, work with the state, continue to advocate and think about how can we bridge these issues instead of creating it a us versus them situation. You know, I think sometimes individuals are very defensive or reactive to it because it can be very shocking. But at the same time, it's also thinking, you know, it's humanizing the situation. We're talking about human beings here. We really need to think about that. And the only other thing that I do want to put a nexus to it as you're working through this is really thinking about your city codes, if they do need to come and be revisited, if there are things where certain scenarios of an individual cannot park for a certain amount of time near a park, there might be some safety concerns for residents there. Think about how do we need to update and modify these codes to make it a comprehensive situation, not only for those in needs, but for the residents there. That's all I have.
Another really difficult question, so thank you. I think balancing public safety, again, this is a place where residents recently said, you know, public safety is one of their top 3 issues. So everyone's feeling it, everyone's seeing it, the concerns that have been raised, you know, increasingly over the years around experiences downtown. I'll point that out, that everyone has had some kind of experience where they have felt uncomfortable. And the reality is that, you know, it's a balance between public safety and people feeling safe, right? Being actually safe and feeling safe are 2 very different things. I think the city has done a tremendous job of standing up some things like the clean team, standing up. I know the ambassadors for a little while, trying some of those programs. And I think that willingness to take risks, that willingness to experiment, to try to find the right balance between compassion and helping folks, business owners, people in the community recognize that they are safe, that the city hears it, that the city sees it, and that the city has both tools and partners who will come to the table and try to find ways to navigate that, I think are going to be really key.
Well, I mean, I'm also going to say it's a complicated issue, right? You know, this stuff has come into my scope personally a little bit somewhat because, you know, I was a member for a few years of the grocery workers union here in the area. And we, you know, throughout, you know, the Olympia Tacoma area, we had, you know, a lot of stories from our members who were dealing with safety issues in their stores. Because of, you know, related to crime and homelessness, there were situations where our members really didn't feel safe at their work. And we, you know, as a union, we had to take that very seriously. And so, you know, I certainly had, you know, had to think about that one a lot. But by the very virtue of that and thinking about, you know, how widespread the impacts of these things are, I think we really need to be thinking more about being proactive rather than about being reactive, right? I mean, if the root causes of these kinds of problems that are causing crime and that are leading to homelessness and stuff, if we're always reacting downstream, you know, then, you know, no amount of policing or whatever is really going to address it. You know, you'll get one person and then more will come back in their place or whatever. And we've already seen that from how these things have played out. And again, you know, being always cognizant of the fact that as a city, as a small jurisdiction, our resources are often limited. Nonetheless, I think we really need to be thinking about how we can address those root conditions, the housing insecurity, the lack of mental health care, things like that, that then lead to these problems in perpetuity. Thank you.
Thank you. Your next question comes from Councilmember Gilman.
Kelly, you're going to lead off this one, and it's about economic development and poverty reduction. The city recently approved Olympia Strong Economic Opportunity for Everyone, which is a plan to address economic resilience in our community. What strategies do you think will reduce poverty and create economic opportunities for everyone, which may be considered in this plan or go beyond? Which stakeholders would you engage in this work?
Yeah, ready for this question. Olympia Strong is a great plan. I mean, the folks who put that together, you talked with a lot of folks throughout the community on all sides of this issue. The 4 focus areas are really broad and I think give a really good example of all of the different components that it will take to promote economic development, to reduce poverty in this community. I think when I look at this council's work recently, you've done some fantastic things around a couple of the focus areas. Obviously very active on housing and homelessness, working a lot on some of the aspects of community pride, lovability. I think that's fantastic. I think I could really help drive the focus areas that I just haven't seen as much public work on. That doesn't mean it's not happening, but particularly working with small businesses, looking at business enterprise support, business resources. Those are areas where partnering with folks in the community, like the EDC, with the Olympia Downtown Alliance, with other folks who are working in this realm, I think is going to be really key. I worry a little bit that this coming year we've seen executive leadership changes at the ODA, we've seen executive leadership changes at Experience Olympia and beyond, and the city has lost its own economic development director, which is just going to take a little bit of time to refill and get that person up to speed. So I think it will be really imperative this year for the council to find ways to lead this work, to drive some of these conversations as some of these key economic development partners have a moment to get back to full force.
Well, this might be the one where people who know me are likely surprised by my answers. But I think, if we really want to encourage widespread prosperity in this community, we need to enable people to spend more. And I think that means we need to look at raising the minimum wage here. And I think we need to look at giving people scheduling security mandated by law. And I know that there are these concerns raised about how that's going to impact small businesses. But I mean, I got to tell you from my own experiences and that of people that I know, like, we spend money at our local small businesses because we have disposable income. Like I'm a well-paid union state worker, right? I have money left after I pay the bills and I go and spend it here in my community. And if people don't have money in their pockets, they're like only going to go to Walmart where the prices are the lowest or whatever. By the same token, if people can't plan their lives, like how are they going to, go out and have dinner and drinks and stuff like that, So I do think we need to look at that, and this isn't really outside the mainstream, really. I mean, for half of the last century, it was like mainstream capitalist economics to make sure people had money to spend to encourage growth, encourage employment, So I think we need to look at that. I think we need to think about the long term in that sense, that like when regular folk can have a little bit left after the bills, that like that's when economic activity gets generated. So again, I really would look forward to working with folks on making sure we can have a community economy that works for everybody.
Economic development is extremely important for our business community. We look at our infrastructure, our current housing, or not our current housing, our current businesses, and if I'm a business owner, I want to open up a brick and mortar store or business, I have to think about the build out and the cost of that build out and thinking about the loans and those opportunities for me to do that. And often there's a lease of 5 years, if not more. There's the cost of completing that build out. And then there's the cost of me pitching to either the local banks, like Olympia Bank is great, or this SBA to secure a loan. And that process takes a lot of legwork. That's a lot to pitch your business plan to do that. So there's a lot of upfront costs that business owners are looking at. And I think it's a barrier in the downtown community. When you're thinking about building out a business, the costs to make it, a place that people want to come and be at. that initial cost, that is significant. And then you're thinking about, I need to provide a living wage to my workers because I want to have great workers. That cost is also something that people need to think about. A lot of people will automatically go to the materials. They are completely fine with paying cost materials, but the cost of labor is a completely different thing. And that has completely changed. It's not only just thinking about individuals having money to be able to spend at the end of the day, but it's also individuals that are on fixed incomes. We do have an aging income here in Olympia, and there is a lot of people that do support local businesses, but they're still very conservative of where they spend their money. So that's where you really have to think about, what is your business? How do you change? How do you present yourself? How do you foster that connection? And I think one of the things is thinking about scale. Sometimes people scale up too much, and that's a barrier. And
Please finish your sentence. Yeah.
oh, I was just going to add the stakeholder comments. I would work with more of the local Thurston County Economic Development, work with the Small Business Administration, work with local banks, really set up that package and that framework so that individuals have that pathway forward for success.
Thank you. Your next question comes from Councilmember Vanderpool.
And this is for Isaac. Yes. This is on balancing personal and council goals. As council members, we each come with individual policy interests. The council also has a significant body of agreed upon work to advance. Given the constraints of staff time, budget resources, and the legal limitations of what local government can actually do, how would you find the balance with achieving your goals?
Well, that's a good question. I think that, I mean, obviously, you know, there's a certain amount of just baseline stuff that's always going to be having to have to be taken care of. I mean, that's true of any job. That's certainly, you know, true of mine. At the same time, you know, that I want to give that all of the due attention that it deserves. I think I would also try to convince other people of the importance of my priorities so they're not just my priorities, right? I mean, no one can really achieve anything alone, especially in a context like this. And I think that I'm a good person at finding that balance. So that part I'm actually not too concerned about.
It all goes down to time management. So for me, you know, I do wear my hat as a state employee during the day. I get off work and I am a small business owner in the evenings, on the weekends, and that's a balance. I also sit on the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, and I've taken the time to participate, to review plans, and it's just part of business for me. I am a very active person. I pay attention to what's happening in the newspaper, what's going on in different organizations. Any survey you send to me, I will take. I love surveys. I check my email all the time, even my junk email. So I think that, you know, this position really, there are certain limitations. Everything has a framework. You're kind of put in a box. But I think as I, you know, review like comprehensive plans or learn about local government and participate, you know, just understanding what I can potentially influence and what I can't. And then it's just it's a growing process. You know, this is a new process for me. You were all new council members at one point. So you get to learn your rhythm, how you're gonna manage your workload, and basically how you're gonna serve the community at large.
I think this is an area where all of us do this every day in some way, right? None of us are just one thing. We don't have one role. We don't have one responsibility. We're always finding ways to find that balance. So I don't think that piece would be a significant challenge. I think when it comes to balancing something like the work plan, that's a work plan built by 7 people with input from the city. So I think that comes down to, while I would certainly advocate for things that I wanted to see in that work plan. At the end of the day, you walk out of that room with a work plan, that's what it is. And so then I think it becomes the responsibility of remembering that in that scenario, you're putting council first, you're putting those agreements first. And I think that's something that I've had the opportunity to work with some really fantastic colleagues and experience that, where we can disagree, we can have competing priorities, we can have competing interests. And at the end of the day, when we say this is the plan, this is the work that we're going to do, because we know that we can do it. We know that the city can do it. We know that the resources are there behind it. I think that's the key to being able to find that balance, is remembering that there's places where your individual voice should come out and be strong, and there's places where you need to operate as part of a larger body in the interest of the folks around us. I think the only other thing I would say in here is that this would also be a place. I'm a big advocate of I don't know everything. I don't know how to do everything, and so I think I'm a person who's willing to reach out and ask for help. When I was considering applying for this position, I reached out to every single one of you and your former colleague, Councilmember Parshley, now Representative Parshley, and just asked for time and asked for help. And every single one of you said yes. And I'm so grateful for that. And that kind of leadership tells me that there would be folks there helping to guide that balance, helping to lead by example and show how to do that successfully.
Thank you. Your next question comes from Councilmember Madrone.
All right, and we're starting with Jennifer on this one, I believe. The city values engaging the public on issues to arrive at good policy decisions and can often receive a broad range of perspectives, some which are in direct conflict with each other. How would you find your way through the diverse voices and needs of the community to arrive at policy that works for the community as a whole?
Public engagement is extremely important in any process. You really want to have a comprehensive voice of your community. So that does include both sides of the coin. You have the pros and the cons. And reading through your comments and getting that engagement is really important. But how you go about that engagement is one of the things that I often think about, is going beyond the steps of just having an email, some response to a survey, thinking about having public meetings. You know, the pandemic really changed how we did our public engagement process, but really, how do we go out in the communities and having more of those local meetings occurring at a library, maybe a small business, just getting that feedback. But again, you know, you're on a time frame, and it also depends on the policy at hand. Are you receiving federal funding? Are you receiving state funding? How is this policy being implemented? How is it being, what's the time frame is it on it? Is it just going to be for 4 years? Is this a pilot project? Are we going beyond that? So I think there's a lot of variables into that, but reaching a diverse group of individuals is really how do we get those messages out beyond just emails in your standard public meetings. So I worked in a Department of Ecology in the Toxics Cleanup Program, and we spent a lot of time on doing this type of work. One of the things that we did is we created newsletters, and we would mail out newsletters to individuals in these affected areas within a certain radius. So thinking there is a cost associated with that, given the budget limitations, but thinking how can we engage the public in a non-traditional way that's based solely on the internet or computer-based systems. That's it.
So I think this is a place where there's two aspects of it that come to mind for me. One is that the city has that we need to put value in the feedback that is coming in. There are very active advisory committees. There's public engagement happening through the comprehensive plan process, through some of the plans embedded within that plan, right? There's a lot of feedback coming in. And so I think part of it is valuing that, balancing that with the experts, the people who have that expert understanding. But I think the second piece of this is asking where you're not getting feedback, asking what are the voices that are not there, and how do you reach out to them? And Jennifer, I appreciate that you alluded to this. This was our discussion up in the waiting room up there. was that, it's an equity issue to say who has not been able to engage in this process or who hasn't engaged in this process and why, and to seek out that feedback, because you're always going to get conflicting feedback. Even asking the six of you a question, I could get six different opinions on it. So I think taking that in is a huge part of the process, but I think that other piece of seeking it out, finding the folks who aren't able to participate in the processes, aren't able to respond to the emails, aren't able to come to the evening meeting, I think being very intentional about seeking that out is really key to fully utilizing that feedback and incorporating it into the best and most comprehensive policy.
Yeah, I think that public engagement, it really depends on making sure that people who are impacted by a proposal or a policy are able to, give their full input on it. And I think a lot of that just has to do with timing. A lot of folks work jobs where, the usual timing of public meetings isn't going to really work for them. I mean, not even that long ago when I was working at the store, I couldn't have come to this meeting because of when my work schedule had to be. And so I think making sure that we do that. It could even be as simple as just having some, if we're looking at input on some, aspect of this, of the comprehensive plan or something, just having meeting in the morning, meeting at the evening, like staggering the times a little bit to, even having just like a little bit of redundancy to make sure that everybody or as many people as possible have an opportunity to do that. In the grocery union, we had, just member meetings. There'd be one in the morning and one in the evening, for example, and that meant you could get a lot more people in. And also on that point, I mean that, like being a steward and stuff, I think that gave me that experience to actually, navigate a lot of these conflicting viewpoints. I mean, definitely not everybody who I worked with, I agreed with everything about, but in order to do the things that we had to do, I had to look for those common interests and kind of rally people around those and, cut through to what really the goal that we could all unite around was. And so, that's a skill that I actually would really look forward to bringing to the council. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's it for all the questions on the issues, and we'll just move into the closing question. We'll begin with Jennifer. And is there anything else that you would like us to know about your interest in serving? And do you have any questions about process for the appointment?
I just want to say thank you all for the opportunity to sit here. I was, on a whim, saw the advertisement and decided to apply. I was actually inspired by you, Robert, from sitting on the BPAC. I was like, I should do this. Let's see. So I feel very honored to just even sit here and talk to you all. My background is very untraditional. I am not a native Olympian. I moved here in 2013 to attend Evergreen. And I have just stayed here in Washington State, and I really enjoy being part of this community. This community pays my bills to live here, so I feel very connected. And I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. As for process, my understanding is that you're going to be deliberating tonight, and we will be making the decision tonight. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
Okay.
And I'll explain more towards the end.
Okay.
Yep.
And that is all I have.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. Well, I echo Jennifer's gratitude for allowing us to be here tonight, for giving all of your time, and to really working through a thorough process. Another conversation we had upstairs was just how thorough that application was, and really, I think, brought seriousness to what we were about to undertake. So thank you for everything you've done throughout this process. I know what it means to be an effective community partner in the type of work this council needs to undertake. And as part of this council, I know that I would bring a strength of making sure that we have the voices and the partners with our work that we would have. I am a huge proponent of local government. I think it's easy to see what's happening on the national level, federal level, and that is very serious stuff, and I don't question it. But what affects our lives day to day is what happens in this room and what happens in the other council rooms, what happens at those municipal governments. So it's the reason I vote in every election. It's the reason I participate in these types of processes. I think local government is just a huge opportunity to really improve the lives around us. I'm seeking this appointment to work with you on that dais to improve lives and expand opportunities in Olympia. It really just boils down to that. I hope that my application and my time here today has shown you what I would bring to the table, and I hope that I would be a good fit for that position. So thank you.
Yeah, it's a huge honor to have been invited here for this, so thank you all so much. And sort of like I said when I started, I mean, this town, I couldn't have asked for a better place to live and work and study. This place has so much to recommend it, you know, the quality of our public services, our natural surroundings, our parks, our arts and culture, that we've got such an array of small businesses, and that I'm, you know, proud to say this is a union town, a labor town, solidarity with our transit workers who are bargaining right now, ATU 1765, by the way. And I really, again, I just want to make sure that it stays the wonderful place that I've lived in, you know, and I think that that means building prosperity from the bottom up. I think it means being proactive rather than reactive in the way that we think about a lot of these key issues that are affecting people. And I know not everyone may agree with all of my views all the time, but I think that I bring a good balance of being both a team player and a principled actor to things. I think if you talk with anybody who I've worked with in the past, they can speak to that. And that is really a quality that I would hope to bring to this work and collaborating with all of you to build a bright future for our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank all of you. As I said, we really appreciate you taking the time to apply and for your patience tonight. So you are our last panel for this evening.
Later that same evening.
Okay, so this first ballot is Jim Cooper's ballot. In first place, we have Kelly Green. For second choice, we have Bridget. For third place, we have Tanzania. For fourth place, we have Isaac. For fifth place, we have Daniel. For sixth choice, we have Jennifer. And for seventh choice, we have Zach. Okay, and just to read it back again and double check myself. For first choice, we have Kelly. For second choice, we have Bridget. For third choice, we have Tanzania. For fourth choice, we have Isaac. For fifth choice, we have Daniel. For sixth choice, we have Jennifer. And for seventh choice, we have Zachary.
Thank you. Jack, before you move on, one of our candidates' names is misspelled. Tanzania Zenzali's name. There's an S when there should be another Z, I believe. Please correct that. Thank you.
My apologies. Your name is misspelled as well? Wait. Is that more correct? Okay, my apologies. All right, for this next ballot, we have Ying Huin. For first choice, we have Kelly. For second choice, we have Bridget. For third choice, we have Tanzania. For fourth choice, we have Jennifer. For fifth choice, we have Daniel. For sixth choice, we have Zachary. And for seventh choice, we have Isaac. Just to go through them again, for first choice, we have Kelly. For second choice, we have Bridget. For third choice, we have Tanzania. For fourth choice, we have Jennifer. For fifth choice, we have Daniel. For sixth choice, we have Zachary. And for seventh choice, we have Isaac. All right, Clerk Gilman's ballot. For first choice, we have Zachary. For second choice, we have Kelly. For third choice, we have Tanzania. For fourth choice, we have Isaac. For fifth choice, we have Bridget. For sixth choice, we have Daniel. And for seventh choice, we have Jennifer. So to read through that again, for first choice, we have Zachary. For second choice, we have Kelly. For third choice, we have Tanzania. For fourth choice, we have Isaac. For fifth choice, we have Bridget. For sixth choice, we have Daniel. For seventh choice, we have Jennifer. Next, we have Robert Vanderpool's ballot. For first choice, we have Bridget. For second choice, we have Kelly. For third choice, we have Jennifer. For fourth choice, we have Isaac. For fifth choice, we have Daniel. For sixth choice, we have Tanzania. And for seventh choice, we have Zachary. So that's first choice, we have Bridget. Second choice, we have Kelly. Third choice, we have Jennifer. Fourth choice, we have Isaac. Fifth choice, we have Daniel. Sixth choice, we have Tanzania. And seventh choice, we have Zachary. Now we have Danny's ballot. First choice, we have Kelly. Second choice, we have Bridget. Third choice, we have Daniel. Fourth choice, we have Tanzania. Fifth choice, we have Jennifer. Sixth choice, we have Zachary. Seventh choice, we have Isaac. So for first choice, we have Kelly. Second choice, we have Bridget. Third choice, we have Daniel. Fourth choice, we have Tanzania. Fifth choice, we have Jennifer. Sixth choice, we have Zachary. And seventh choice, we have Isaac. Dante Payne's ballot. First choice, we have Kelly. And second choice, we have Bridget. And third choice, we have Tanzania. And fourth choice, we have Jennifer. In fifth choice, we have Daniel. In sixth choice, we have Zachary. And in seventh choice, we have Isaac. In first choice, we have Kelly. In second choice, we have Bridget. In third choice, we have Tanzania. In fourth choice, we have Jennifer. In fifth choice, we have Daniel. In sixth choice, we have Zachary. And in seventh choice, we have Isaac. So now that all ballots have been entered and audited, the next step is going to be moving on to the rounds. And in this position, what we're doing is we're going to be looking at all the first place positions and assigning the votes therefore and seeing if any of them are going to be having a majority right off the bat. So for first place, Kelly Green has 4 choices. Zachary has 1. And Bridget has 1. So because 4 votes are needed to win in the first round of voting, Kelly Green has the majority support. Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, that happened much faster than the last time we did this. Congratulations. On that part of it, we officially need to move to appoint you to the seat. So listen out for that in a moment. But right now, I just really want to take the opportunity again to thank every single one of you. There can only be one that is appointed to the seat. And again, not an easy task to have to rank each of you because you all offer something unique and different, both with your lived experience and professional experience of what you bring as a person. So we appreciate that. We hope that you consider serving in another capacity for the city, whether it be on one of our boards or commissions or advisory committees. And I will just make a plug that 2025 is an election year for the Olympia City Council. So I just want to remind you of that as well. With that, I need a motion to appoint Councilmember Cooper.
Mayor Payne, I move to appoint Kelly Green to the Olympia City Council.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion to appoint Kelly Green to the position of Olympia City Council member, position number 5, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations. Okay, so at this time, we will make sure, Kelly, that you have your very first business meeting tomorrow. So, yes. So why don't you make sure that after we adjourn that you check in with staff and we will get you all set up for the logistics that will go in tomorrow because you'll be sworn in before we start with our business tomorrow evening as well. So with that, do we have anything for the good of the order before we adjourn? Any comments from the dais? Councilmember Cooper.
Thank you, Mayor Payne. I just want to say and encourage all of you to consider public service. There is no shortage of passion for Olympia in this room. That decision was hard beyond number 1 and number 2 for me. It was very, very difficult. And so please get in line, sign up, run, whatever you need to do to keep serving because you're all meant to be here just because you were willing to put yourselves out there. So please, that's something that we'd all be willing to talk to you about as well. So if you're interested in running for office or trying to get on a committee or running for a different office, let's have those chats because you're all in the right place. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Nguyen, followed by Councilmember Madrone.
You all take the time at the end for your closing statements and shared some gratitude with us, and I hope you feel the gratitude coming from this council as well. What would be the worst is to have too easy of a decision. And to question if there was more talent out there. Surely there is in our great city. And also, please do remember that you're leaving tonight. One of 7 that was shortlisted out of 22 applicants, and also some pretty competitive applications as well. I mean, that's an accomplishment in and of itself. What a big moment, what a big deal to put yourself out in such a public way. And there's absolutely a space to share your talents with Olympians. So thank you for giving it a go, and I do hope that you'll consider running for an elected position and also applying for an advisory board. You can have both, but there's a lot of ways to share your talents, and I hope you will. Thank you so much for tonight.
Councilmember Madrone, followed by Councilmember Gilman.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a moment and offer some give backs to y'all as well. It's an incredibly vulnerable thing for you all to come in here and participate in a very public process.